Podcast is proudly powered by Battle-Born Batteries. Let the power of lithium take you on your journeys across the outdoor world. Battle-Born Batteries designs and assembles the industry's top choice for lithium-ion batteries right here in the USA. Reliable, safe, and long-lasting, Battle-Born makes for the sustainable and lightweight drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries. Ready to make the switch to lithium and the switch to green energy? All batteries are in stock now. Shop today at battlebornbatteries.com.
What is up, everybody? Good evening to you all. For those of you joining the show for the first time, my name is Justin Patrick, and with me, as always, is the good friend and co-host David Best, and we are Lines In, powered by Battle-Born Batteries, presented by Primary Tackle. Guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. We're gonna have some fun tonight talking about mine and David's epic failure at Lake Dardanelle, But you know, in with tradition in this show, if you guys are new to the show, we try to make everything as educational as possible. So we are going to we've actually been talking about this. We enjoy doing this, where we're going to get on Google Earth. We're going to show you guys where we fished. We're going to talk about it. We're going to go into depth. We're going to give you an overview of the lake and just kind of go into as much detail in our thought processes, and and just kind of wrap it up with, hindsight 2020, what we would have done differently. But before we get into all that, we'd like to talk a little bit about what's going on, in the kayak fishing and fishing industry right now, just some updates. So of course we did just wrap up the final event of the Hobie Bass Open Series, at least the tournament trail series events of the Hobie Bass Open Series. The only thing left on their schedule is the Tournament of Champions on Caddo Lake in November, and then Bassmaster Kayak Series. They're kind of wrapping up their season. Pickwick is going to be coming up, and that's probably going to be a pretty big event. Not as many signed up for that yet, David, but I got a feeling it's going to be one of those kind of like last couple of weeks. A lot of people are going to sign up for it. And then, of course, locally, West Tennessee Bass Yackers and the CAST organization, most clubs are starting to wrap up their seasons and whatnot. And West Tennessee Bass Yackers has wrapped up their events that can get you points in AOY or the state team. But they do have their classic that coming up this weekend on Kentucky Lake. It's a 2-day event. 5 best fish for both days, so you don't have to fish both days, but if you want to, of course you can. And that's going to be some good practice for those guys. Getting ready to fish the state championship on Kentucky Lake, and then if you are qualified for the KBF National Championship, that's going to be held the weekend after. So a lot of good fishing still to be had. It's always funny to me, David, that some of the best fishing can be in that late fall, that transition from fall into winter, but yet there's just not very many tournaments that time of year, and that's sad, man. There's some good fish to be caught.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually one of my favorite times to fish. is October, early November. You have a lot of schooling fish. There's a lot of numbers that can be caught. The weather's nicer. It's not so dead blame hot. Here we are coming into get back from there, and it's going to be 98 tomorrow. I mean, you get into those nice cool mornings and nice days where it's not so brutal. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's a great time to fish. It's my favorite time. One of my favorite times. Weather's more stable. It's a lot easier to predict, but I mean, it can be a little more challenging. So we'll see.
So, not laughing at you. So, real quick, what's up to the guys in the comments? Seth Breckenridge, man, Seth, it's always good to see you. You are a big follower of the show. We greatly appreciate you tuning every night, man. Good to see you. Mark Davis is in the house, and he he said they sent out a new message about KBF that if you submitted a fish on any of their tournaments, you qualify for the national championship.
Seriously?
Two thoughts about that. For one, like what a money grab, but then two, what a slap in the face to the people that actually put in some work to try and qualify for that
Yeah.
event.
No doubt. Absolutely.
That's
That's crazy.
why even call it a championship? Why not
Yeah.
just call it the Epic Open, or something like that? Uh, I don't know, man. We're not going to go into all that. We try not to get into too much of the drama going on in this industry, but
Yeah.
yeah, What's up, Brandon Palmer? Um, yeah, that's just I don't know about that, but we'll leave it at that. But yeah, man, a lot of good fishing yet to be had. Like Dave said, I've had some of my best days, especially on Pickwick, Tennessee River, in that November time frame. That's kind of when that real transition starts to take place. You'll see a little bit more of it in October. But right now we're still hitting 98, 99 degrees. I mean, it's still hot.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so Lake Dardanelle, turned out to be a good event, and I used a product in that tournament that always helps me out in a lot of my tournaments, and which is going to be tonight's product of the week video coming up right now.
Hey guys, another quick product of the week for you. We've got all these great gloves from Rockfish Gloves. UV protection, helps keep your hands from aging near as bad, gives you some way to grip. They've got these awesome little leather pads inside of the gloves, gives you some compression, so it helps you hold on to those fish on that measuring board a lot easier. Great way to take care of your hands during the day.
All right, we greatly appreciate Primary Tackle and their support of the show, and I can attest, Dave. I know you use them. Those Rockfish gloves, I mean, they've become like, and I'm not just saying this, they've become a necessity for me. Like, I'll start the day off without them on, but as soon as I catch a fish, like I got the fish in one hand, I'm digging in my front hatch to pull the gloves out.
Yeah.
Because dude, those things, they really, really help, keeping a grip on those fish, to keep them down on the board. Your hands are wet, from dealing with the fish. And if that fish flops, I mean, I experienced it, Saturday. I caught a fish and I tried to put it on the board without my hand, without the gloves. And of course it started flopping off,
Oh yeah.
put the gloves on, and I mean, it was slapping its tail and, acting up and whatnot, and was able to hold it tight. So, great product.
Yeah. If I don't put them on first thing in the morning, I usually do about the time after the first or second one is spin me, and then I start grabbing them again for that purpose.
Yeah. So they're multi-purpose, but I do like them for that reason too, man. I've been finned a couple of times. It's not fun.
One got me good Saturday morning. That first one I
Yeah.
caught Saturday morning. Gloves came on shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
So
All right, so let's jump into Dardanelle, man. I want to first say, I think I can speak for both of us. Congratulations to Fred Rumbanis' son, Jackson Rumbanis, for coming out and fishing his first kayak tournament. A couple of guys hooked him up with a kayak. I think, what's Drew Gregory hooked him up with a Crescent kayak, and I think Jim Ware actually brought it down from Georgia. and he come out and he just whooped us all. I think 15 years old.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Come out and just put a hurting on all of us. But, we want to attest it to this, but that is his home lake. Maybe he's got some spots. I don't know. But he didn't really go into too much detail on how he caught him. He just said he got onto some kind of structure pattern or something like that, and just kind of ran with that. But, of course, I can't remember the second guy. Oh, yeah, Francis Tran. He Mississippi guy.
Yeah.
He's a good stick too, man. He's typically up there in that top 25.
Yep.
He did pretty good. Came in second, and then Jordan Marshall, just continues to show his capabilities as an angler, and came in third. So I want to say he was sitting in like, huh?
He just goes everywhere and catches them.
He does, man. He does. He's a river guy.
He is.
He's a river guy. So, but it sounds a lot like he. A lot of times when you hear him in his in the discussion after the tournament, how'd you catch him, whatnot. He references the backs of pockets a lot. So I don't think he's just a straight on the river type guy. I think he likes to get up in those creeks and stuff like that as well. Which your Russ Snyders, Gregory's, and a lot of kayak anglers, tend to stick to the back of those creeks. Mark Davis is a creek fisherman. He's got one named after him on Gibson County.
Yeah, yeah.
But so anyways, Dave, I want to you've got a lot of experience on Dardanelle. You fished numerous bass tournaments there. And here's the thing, guys. Myself and David both went into this tournament blind. Now, I mean, we were drawing on our experiences. I've only been there 2 other times. David's been there numerous times, and so we were drawing a lot on our experiences and just trying to, make an educated guess. And we've talked about this before in this show about trying to make the best possible educated guess that you can when you don't have much experience. But I think that David and I have both come to the conclusion that we are no longer fishing tournaments going with no practice. We were talking to each other on the way home. We said, no more. We're not doing it. If we can't get at least a day or 2 of practice in, then we're not doing it. And I still stand behind that, David, because after listening to the awards, most of those guys, talked about how they've been there for, some of them all week.
Yeah.
Hitting multiple ramps in a day, and I think especially during this time of the year, you got to have that, man, because you got to find the productive areas. And basically the consensus of went wrong with us is we had one decision that could have been 50-50, and both of ours went south. We made that one decision first off in the morning Saturday, where are we going to go? And we probably made the wrong decision. But we're going to get more into that. So I'm going to bring up the map of Lake Dardanelle so we can dive into just the kind of the breakdown of this fishery, talk a little bit about it, talk about some of the, the hot areas and stuff like that. I don't really know where everybody fished or anything, so we're not going to go into anything, into any of that. But David and I, we're going to reveal, we're going to show you where we fished, and and the details of that specific spot. And none of these are secret spots, guys. They're all, you can find this stuff pretty easy on any kind of Garmin Active Captain app or Navionics, Google Earth imagery, and all that kind of stuff. So let's pull it up here. So Lake Dardanelle, positioned right here in Russellville, Arkansas, not too far of a drive from the Memphis area, 3.5 hours. And down here, you got your dam that is down here. I'm sorry, right here. And Illinois Bayou is this big embayment right here. You got a big creek coming into it. You got a little bit of runoff right here, but that is blocked off. So in our tournaments, you cannot go past that, and you cannot put in past that. David, I don't know about you, man, but I have never heard of very many people just doing really well right here. I don't think any of the Hobie tournaments have been won here.
No, not that I'm aware of. You know, you don't hear a lot about people going way up there. Just a little further south of there, where the little rock quarries or whatever that is, that area right in there is very popular.
Okay.
You got bunches of little, just like whatever you want to call it, little shoots off of it and all that.
Yeah.
That's a popular area. There's a lot of popular stuff right in through there,
Yeah.
but Illinois Bayou is the one you hear about. I mean, when Bass goes, when FLW goes, that's where everybody is. You always hear about a lot of people back there fishing those areas, and so it's very popular. And I fished it a lot in the past. I didn't fish it this go around. I made some other decisions and kind of screwed up, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It was fun. I got some that much needed rest. I did more resting, I think, at this event than I did fishing.
Yeah, you and I think I beat you on the rest part. But,
After sleeping for like 18 hours, yeah, you probably did.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But Illinois Bayou, you know, like David said, you know, a lot of times when you hear about this area, you know, most of the time, and Bassmaster doesn't go there every year. In fact, I don't think they've been there in a while. But you know, it's usually pre-spawn or immediately post-spawn. So I mean, you can just look at this and see there's just all kinds of juicy looking stuff. You know, it's just a huge. I mean, there's all kinds of spawning areas in here. These, you know, these clear areas you can get into over by the ballpark. This is actually a very deep creek. It's like about 20. It's close to 30, if not over 30 feet deep, believe it or not. And it starts right here, and it's immediately deep. Yeah. But I've caught some fish in there, believe it or not, throwing a buzz bait, you know. But it's real clear, as you can tell. And that's a tip that we can tell you guys is when you're looking at Google Earth imagery. If you don't know this already, and you see these dark areas like this out here, you can tell the rest of it's pretty muddy. Especially that, you know, but up in here in these little areas, this is generally going to be protected areas and pretty clear. You know, you're going to have a lot better water clarity in these areas because there's not really any kind of water moving through it. They're all protected from the wind. As you can see, you got all these trees everywhere protecting it. You know, up here as well, all protected. You know, same thing over here. So, you know, those are some good areas to always look at. You know, certain times of the year. I mean, actually, just about any time of the year. You know, when you're looking at where you want to go look and fish, you know, those are definitely worth spots worth looking at. But moving out, you know, Illinois Bayou is kind of broken up into a few different sections. You know, these bridges and whatnot, you know, typically come into play. You know, most of the year, and all the rock up and down these causeways and whatnot. Got a couple of creeks up here. We're not going to go into every single little area. Delaware Bayou. Delaware is where Dave and I started out at. And then you go up the river, and you got Piney up in here. You got Mud Creek over here. This has been a pretty good area for a lot of people. Spadra, you got two creeks coming off up and through there, and they got plenty of backwater areas that you can access or whatnot. Real juicy looking stuff. There's a lot of grass and you know, lily pads. Coming into the creek, you got some good rock, all of them through here. Rock all up and down this bluff wall. The creek, the river swings this way, and then some areas up here, good spawning flats. This is actually where Mark Menendez won the tournament years ago, taking his aluminum boat through this little bridge, this little chute right there, going all the way back up in here and stuff, catching pretty good. But as you go up the river, you got a lot of different creeks. You know, this one goes way back. There's actually a little park up here where you can put in at somewhere, right there, Hartman City Park. You can put in right there and access the creek. Haven't heard of too many, you know, tournaments doing, or at least the kayak tournaments doing very well up in here. Maybe a few people, but it seems to be one of those places that you can kind of go and just pick up one or two good ones, but probably not a place that you would spend both days. And then as you continue on down the river, it's just, you know, there's wing dams, all kinds of stuff. If you guys watch, Fish the Moment, he talks a lot about Lake Dardanelle and just everything about it, how to catch them out there, any time of the year. But the one thing that is pretty consistent with this lake is you typically have dirty water. It's rare, David. You can quote me if I'm wrong here. It's not very often that you have very clear or clearer water, especially out on any of the main river.
Yeah, and even if you do get some clean water, it doesn't take much to jack it up. So a barge coming through, a little bit of a fluctuation change, a little bit of rain, and it just doesn't take much to change that water color. I've had it happen to me more than once. A little bit of a change in the water levels. I mean, it really can be just about anything. I mean, I was fishing up the river behind an island. You're right there, real close to it. On up the other direction. Up in there, those two little islands across from Piney. I was fishing back up in there about 10 years ago, and we were catching fish around little isolated clumps of milfoil or hydrilla back there.
Yeah.
And gorgeous on Saturday. Catching fish. It's like, hey, this is going to be good. All of a sudden, Sunday, water rolled through there. Something changed. We didn't really see a major change in current or anything, but it was muddy and dirty, and the fish weren't there anymore. Or at least they weren't biting anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't take much. It can change on pretty quickly up there. So, I mean, it's a great fishery. It can be challenging, and this time of year makes it even ultra more challenging. So
it does. I mean, there was a good tournament out there last year when the BOS visited, but that was April.
Yeah.
And I was catching some 5-pounders. You were. I mean, there was some good fish to be caught that tournament. And then the year before that was this same time frame, but the water was up a little bit more then. There was a little bit more current flowing because I was fishing main river, islands and eddies and stuff like that, and flats and whatnot, and it was on fire. I mean, I had a great tournament then, placed 5th in that. And David, did you fish that one? I don't think you did.
I did fish that one. That was my first year kayak fishing. So I really didn't venture out into too many of those. And I think there was a scheduling thing that was a problem for me for that event.
Yeah. So it's one of those, it's popular for a reason. Russellville is it's a huge bass fishing community, and so a lot, they really like to have, host tournaments there. I think they've really enjoyed having the kayak scene there as well. We've always brought a pretty good crowd, but yeah, so let's, I want to start with you, David, talk a little bit about, kind of your thought process, going into this tournament. And you can go as detailed as you want, but as far as what you were thinking about the pattern, kind of like maybe what was going to be taking place, and and kind of like what your backup plan thoughts were going to be, dive into that just a little bit.
So I got into my head on this one. I mean, I kept thinking about. I mean, I just had dozens of spots rolling through my head. I hadn't had any time to pre-fish. Trying to decide where I wanted to go. And heck, even on the morning of the tournament, I pretty much backpedaled and changed my mind and went somewhere different from where me and you talked about. I mean, I was going to go from the boat ramp and go the same direction you were going, and then ended up going a complete opposite direction, went and did something different because I had two areas that I really wanted to go. But of course, one was 1.5 miles and the other one was about 2.5. I got lazy. I went the 1.5 miles, and I was around some fish in the back of Delaware. I mean, and it was just one of those things where I just made some bad decisions, and I don't even know that I made bad decisions. When I got to where I wanted to fish, there was me and another boy that I knew from Oklahoma that I'd met at Broken Bow, and we were both basically, we started and we fished and we talked to each other while we were fishing for the first 35 minutes. He's fishing one little piece and I'm fishing another piece, and I'm fishing the roadbed, the end of a roadbed, and he's fishing the grass around the edge of a bridge. He catches a 20. I mean, he starts missing a fish on a whopper popper immediately. And then he slows down, puts a popper in front of it, catches a 20. I catch a 16. He catches a 19. I catch a 13. He catches a 15. And then it died. He went tooling down the grass line, down the bridge, and caught one more further down. That was his last fish of the day. By 9 o'clock, we were both pretty much done. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think either one of us caught a fish after 9 o'clock.
I hate to say that this early in in what we're doing here, but that was it. It seemed to be.
Yeah. And if you watch, for those of y'all that watched on 30X, most of those limits were caught early on, and you did not see a lot of upgrades going on during the day. There were a few people who had an upgrade here, an upgrade there, but they were few and far between. I mean, if you didn't have them pretty quick, that was the deal.
Yeah.
But if you want to show Delaware, I mean, I think you can see most of it on the map.
Yeah. So this is Delaware. David and I, we put in right here. And I gotta say, I think that we came out winners, regardless of the fish that we didn't catch, because we came back with our catalytic converters.
Catalytic converters in place.
Yeah,
we didn't lose a catalytic converter. We didn't lose any major money.
We didn't. We had to fight off a swarm of gnats in the morning.
Oh my Lord! I about choked on them things that morning.
This whole area, this whole parking lot was just swarming with millions of gnats.
Oh, it was terrible.
Bless David's heart, he had to hook up his battery first thing in the morning, and with his headlight on, and they were just all in your mouth and everything.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. But it was I enjoyed it. I always enjoy going fishing. So if you go down towards the bridge,
yep.
I mean, the back end of Delaware right there, and you can see it down on the very bottom right there where the road comes in. Go a little over to your right, up right there. See where that little road?
Yep.
That road bed goes straight across in front of the bridge right there and goes all the way across to the other end of the lake. That is a big community hole at the Arkansas River. I'm sure somebody's probably cussing me about now over this, but
no,
that's a big community hole. I mean, you sit there and you just watch bass boats roll through it all day, or kayakers roll through it all day. I mean, and that's what I decided I was going to fish, because I have caught some really good stringers of fish there. I've caught some really big fish there. Yeah. Know some other guys that have caught some really big fish there. So while I'm fishing that, Luke's fishing the corner of the bridge right there, and we're just sitting there talking and catching fish. But I sat on that for way too long, knowing that those fish eventually at some point are going to roll up on there and I'm going to catch a limit. That was my thought process.
Right.
I was wrong. It didn't happen. I did watch, when I pulled off of it at one point, I did watch a bass boat pull up there, and the lady in the back of the boat had a big one on, about 4 or 5 pounds. I watched it jump out of the water twice, and her screaming, and I'm like, why couldn't this fish have dipped my lure? I mean,
I know. What was wrong with my bush pig,
So I did something wrong. But so, I mean, and then there was a lot of bass boat guys coming through there and fishing that whole area. And it's one of those things when you look at it in retrospect. I'm watching people all day long, and every bass boat, every kayaker that came through there was doing one thing very much in common, different from what I was doing. I'm out here off of the bank throwing at this roadbed, and everybody else was paralleling that grass, going up and down those bank lines fishing.
Over here on this side and on the opposite side, or are they up in here?
Up and down the bridge, on every bank, every little point. I mean, I just watched every boat. No boat was fishing out in the middle. They were there was grass up along this riprap, all the way up and down that bridge on both sides of it.
Okay. See, that makes sense, because you got two different types of structure or cover there. You got rock mixed with grass.
Yep, and deeper water on both sides.
And deep water, yeah. I mean, that roadbed, that's a shallow, that's considered kind of a shallow area they can move up on, push bait up on.
So it's a great little area. I just didn't fish it well, and it's just it falls into not enough practice and not enough thought being put into it, or too much thought being put into it. I don't know. I kept second guessing myself all morning.
Well, here's the mental aspect of it, is when you're in a tournament situation, you got 8 hours to catch 5 fish, and it's a tough bite. I hate to go into a tournament with preconceived notions, but in the fall, this is not even the fall, this is late summer. It's, you just know it's going to be tough, more than likely. Especially on a very pressured lake like this. Now, maybe like a Broken Bow or something like that may be a little bit different, or a very unpressured, body of water. But places that just are just have reputations like Dardanelle, Pickwick, Chickamauga. I mean, they're just going to be tough. I mean, that adds a factor to it that you just can't get away from. That pressure all year long just being pounded on. This roadbed has probably seen a gajillion lures in just this year alone.
Yeah, well, I had bass boat guys pulling in, and they would drop just before they would get to me, and they were looking, and they'd see what I was fishing. They knew what I was fishing because that's where they were coming to go fish. And I mean, I sat on it for, like I said, 4 to 5 hours, but those fish just never pulled up on it. Yeah. And the sad part is I left at like noon, and there very well could have been somebody pull up on it at 2 o'clock and bust a big limit for all I know. But it's one of those places that, I mean, I know guys who have fished it for hours and hours on end, not caught them, and then somebody else come in behind them and catch a 20-pound bag in 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it happens. I mean, it's just one of those things. But, I mean, sometimes you just have to kind of give up. I got tired, frankly. I was at the house drinking a beer and watching a ball game, to be quite honest, and taking a nap. Because I was tired.
Yep.
I mean, when you
already had the burger and was working on the chips.
Yeah, there you go. When you leave the shop at 1:30 on a Friday, drive 3.5 hours, 4 hours, go look at one boat ramp, and then head to a meeting, and then go eat dinner. I mean, you're tired. You don't get enough. You're trying to get all your crap together and done the night before, and it's just not practical. I'm not doing it. I learned my lesson.
It does. I was just talking to my wife about this. It was a different topic, but I was just saying, those 2-3 days, even just a day, man, just helps to kind of get you in the mindset, just to readjust, to your new environment, going from the workflow to, tournament game mode, trying to put 10 fish in a boat in 2 days and win a tournament, or to place well. I mean, you really need that adjustment. And the more and more I've done this, I've learned that practice is not just about finding productive areas, in patterns and stuff. It's also about you getting yourself in gear. Because again, like we said on this, I mean, it's the truth. It just 99.9% of the kayak anglers, out there right now are not doing this for a living. The few of those that do, which is a very small, number of people, I mean, they got to rod and reel in their hand almost every day, so it's different for them. But, so that was, that was David's, kind of deal. Day 2, I know, you probably just went out there like me, just trying to catch big fish or, having a little bit of redemption on yourself. So, but you went back to the same spot or area or close to?
I went one creek over. I went a little further down. Go back to your right or back towards the dam. Yeah, right there. I went into that creek, fished Jones and Hayes Creek.
Okay.
And that really was just more. I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. I was a little frustrated. I didn't want to pedal a long way, so I went and watched the state park there. And just fished around. I just wanted to go look at that Jones Creek area, because it looked a lot like Delaware along that bridge. I started on that bridge that morning. There's a big, deep creek that goes in right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it. It goes right in. There, again, grass on both sides. There was big grass points that came out along that bank on the north side right there. And there was a ton of bait in there when I drove over it on Saturday.
Was it more on this backside or?
It was on the back and on the front. But I think, if anything, there may have been too dang much bait in there, because, I mean, it just, I don't know. It was kind of weird. Yeah. But I didn't see a lot of bass activity when I got there that morning. I didn't get any bites in there. I was a little frustrated. I did catch a couple fish on the opposite bank on the other side. But it was one of those things where, over there, because that's where the creek channel, that side right there where you have right now, along that side where the boat docks are, along down through there. Oh, yeah. You got a creek channel that comes in right there along that. It's a little deeper. And this
is a roadbed right here, too, isn't it?
It is. Yep. It is. It's an old one that's just sitting out there. And I did catch one off the end of that roadbed, honestly.
Maybe another one. That's probably just a little point.
Yeah, it's just a little point. That all back there was pretty shallow. But it was a good, I mean, it was just one of those things. I went to go do that just for the heck of it and just go look at it, because one, I hadn't fished in a while. It's been a long time since I fished there, probably 20 years. But that's what I did. I mean, I just went in there, caught a couple fish. I left at 10 o'clock and was on my way home. I was with plans of going to work. I got back to the house and I took me a nap instead. I was tired. I mean, this weekend became a recharge and kind of catch up with some of the rest that I've been missing. And going back to what we talked about earlier, for practice for me, you've traveled with me a lot. Typically on Fridays, I don't fish. I mean, I'll fish for like 2 or 3 hours in the morning. I come back, get me some lunch, and then I spend 3 to 4 hours just getting my gear together and having my boat ready for the next morning. So I'm not up till 11 or 12 o'clock on a Friday night trying to get my boat together.
Yeah.
And, which is what I ended up doing the Friday night before. So I don't like doing that. I mean, I think it keeps you from being rested. It keeps you from being able to fish effectively the next morning or as effectively as you'd like to be. And it's kind of draining. So again, I won't be. I learned some lessons this week.
Yeah. Well, that's what's important is if you come away from a situation and you learn from it. That's all that matters. Well, let's talk about the morning bite a little bit and just kind of try to break that down to where people can understand it a little bit better and not just hear, well, morning bite. What does that entail? And all the videos and everything, there's not a whole lot of videos that just really kind of break down and explain why there is a morning bite. And the morning bite doesn't really have a whole lot to do as much with the bass themselves, but more so and when you think about morning bite, most people think top water, burning the bank. I mean, of course there can be points and all that kind of stuff that are productive as well. But when somebody says the morning bite, a lot of people are thinking, buzz bait, whopper plopper, or something like that, burning the bank up, and catching some good ones. What's going on, and this is, I think, has a lot to do with why the fishing can be so tough is that bait comes up at night. They're up there feeding at night. They move up out of that deeper water. They come up there more shallow. Get on that bank line, or on the surface, and then bass come up with them, and that's gonna segue into what David's talking about, but then also what I'm going to talk about in my area. So, being David both that fish the Tennessee River, anytime I go to a river, I try to think, what would I do on Pickwick right now? What would I do on Chick or something like that? And I really like to stay, main lake and stuff like that if I can. I mean, I like going in the backs of creeks and whatnot, but, in kayak fishing, I would rather, pedal 2 or 3 miles and get away from everybody, than be fishing on top of everybody. And there was a couple of guys that, finished in the top 10 or whatnot. I think Francis is in the house tonight. I think he even mentioned it. The area that he was in, or somebody said it, that I mean, they just had to put their iPods in and just kind of tone it out. Just tune it out because there were so many people in there fishing, and you just got to stay focused on what you're doing. But I came out of Delaware and I came up to this island. The main river runs straight through here. Kind of runs up against this bank up here and then shoots down and comes right next to this island area. And, just a tip for anybody on any kind of river system, man, islands are always a good place to at least go and check out. It's just a piece of structure. It's typically got some flat water or some shallow water, coming right off of it and whatnot. You can see all the grass around here and whatnot and, vegetation. And then he creates little eddies, little current breaks. The water that's going to flow down here is going to come through there. It's going to shoot through there a lot faster than it is out here. And, same thing coming around this side. So, you got 2 different sides. You got more, steady current that'll flow through here. And then you got water that's going to pick up speed coming down through here because it's more narrow. And so this is where I decided to fish. I'd never fished here before, but it's just, it's out here. It's isolated. It looked like a good area to go and fish, and that's just kind of, again, not having any practice. That's where I was gonna, bank it on, and then I kind of had set up myself a little run that I was gonna do. I was gonna come over here. There's some, little this little pipe going through right there. I was going to hit that and just work my way on down, come up in all these little pockets and whatnot, and maybe even go as far as this area over here. So first thing in the morning, I started out down here and, was throwing a buzzbait, whatnot, just was not getting anything. And I have seen this so many times. I want to see if anybody else in the comments has noticed this, people that fish regularly. If you pay attention to your graph, first thing in the morning, or if you haven't, do this, pay attention to your graph and then put it to the test. And I've seen this so many times where the top 2 or 3 feet on my Garmin will be completely bare. There will be nothing. It's almost as if there's some kind of glitch in it or whatnot, but there's just nothing up there. There's not that many, there's no bait, hardly any bait up there, no fish activity or anything. And it's not a glitch there's nothing wrong with my graph. It's just for whatever reason, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I've experienced this a number of times where that'll be the case, and I'll go out and I'll start throwing topwater, and I won't catch anything on topwater. And then I'll pick up something that's starting to swim a little bit underneath the surface, and I'll start catching them. And that was the case here. Started moving my way up here through a buzzbait, pretty much this whole half this island through here. And there was this is all an actual reed line. It doesn't look anything like this grass coming out all out to here. It's actually reeds that just kind of sit right up next to the bank right there. I mean, it probably changes, year by year, but about right in here, I picked up the good old Black Bass Tackle Industries swim jig, black with a Zoom Z crawl trailer on it, and started swimming around. I started catching some fish almost instantly. First or second cast, started catching some fish. And it was right in this little section up and through here. And but anyways, put 3 in the boat pretty quick. But then, like you said, David, it just died, man. That sun came out, and it seemed like it came out so fast. I mean, by the time we launched it, 6? Yeah. 6 o'clock. Got up here by I got to the back of this island by 6:30, and we launched on time. So it took every bit of 30 minutes to get over there. And and just after that sun came out, things just changed. So what happens, and David, tell me if I'm wrong here, but what happens when that sun comes out, then that bait starts to go out a little bit deeper. And it's not that it's not that the bass aren't biting anymore. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just not biting. Maybe they do turn off, like they're just not feeding as much, but the bait starts going out deeper. They're not up there on the bank anymore. They're not up there where those fish can set up, ambush points on them and whatnot. They're not pushing them up against the grass and stuff like they were in the morning. They just go out, they start suspending, and it gets, that's why it gets tough. But, one thing that, that I did notice, I tried to implement with this, it just didn't work out. And I think probably more so because of the water clarity. I didn't really have any kind of, 5XDs or anything like that with me. It's anything to really push any kind of water. But I tried throwing, a worm and, some other baits up and down along this river ledge to kind of make up for that. Excuse me. There we go. Try to make up for that, that transition back out a little bit deeper, but it just, for whatever reason, it just wasn't happening. And of course, as soon as I, make the pedal up through here, which was like a, super, super shallow water. I mean, you can see these lay downs and stick ups and stumps. They were everywhere. I mean, this is a terrible imagery to show, but there are just stumps everywhere through this flat. I mean, I nailed one, going about 2 miles an hour in my kayak. But of course, bass boat was moving down this way. Anyways, got up through here, started fishing some of this stuff, and it was just real too shallow. What seemed to be the ticket for me, especially in this area, it seemed like the fish wanted to be relating to that deeper water. That's why I was catching them over here pretty good. But once I got up in here, this was all super shallow, probably 3 feet average, and I didn't go down this far. Just decided to scratch the whole game plan. But anyways, it was one of those deals. I can't say for sure just where everybody else was and how people were adjusting throughout the day. I tried fishing shade lines and all that great stuff. For whatever reason, I just could not buy a bite. I came back down through here, fished all the way down through here, hit structure and stuff like that. There's a huge point that comes way out here, comes all the way out. There's a good creek channel that runs all the way through and buttons up next to where David was fishing over here by the bridge. Really good. If we're fishing more of a pre-spawn or post-spawn tournament on Dardanelle, this would be an area that I would want to go and look at pretty heavily because of the amount of structure and the creek channels that come out. They make points. You got a creek channel bend in through here. Again, all real obvious stuff that you can find pretty easily on Navionics. But really good stuff. And there was bait all out there, but again, the water was just really dirty. Couldn't get anything going with any kind of drop shot or Texas rig or jig, and almost like David said, it just seemed like there was too much bait. I don't really, I'm not a marine biologist by no means, but I would venture to say that if I'm sitting in a buffet and I've got all these chicken wings dangling around my head, and somebody walks up with a chicken nugget, I'm like, what do I need that for? I mean, look at what I got. And that just seems to be the case with bass a lot of times in this time of the year. Is they just have so much to eat from all the shad spawns and stuff that have taken place that that could be a factor. Not saying that is a factor, could be a factor. We said we lost David. So, anyways, Dave Halverson, fish don't buy sunglasses. No, they don't. Wish they would. So they would they stay up shallow a little bit more. Mark Davis sounds like state championship on Loudon. Man, you ain't kidding. That was one of those tournaments where you could go into the back of a pocket and you could see bass just bait everywhere. Just scattered all throughout these flats and whatnot. And it didn't seem to matter what you threw at them. They just weren't having it. Trying to catch up on some of the comments in here. Too much bait. But all right, so we're gonna a little bit of hindsight 2020. Some things that probably could have made a difference, maybe not. Who knows? Because you can't go back and repeat the same situation. We could go back out there this weekend and maybe the bass are just biting like crazy, and then then we would say, hey, yeah, this is what we should have done. But if I was in that moment again, kind of what David was talking about a little bit earlier, some bass boats rolled up on his spot, and caught some, and that you're always going to have that, where when it's really tough, it really becomes a mental game then. And I'll be honest, that is a part that I struggle with personally, is keeping my mind in it and just sticking it out, seeing it through, staying in the area, staying on this roadbed or, staying on that island and just seeing it through and waiting for those fish to start, eating again. Because in my mind, if they stop biting over here, then I need to go find somewhere that maybe there's some isolated fish. In my mind, I want to go run shade now. I want to go run laydowns. Okay, this was a morning deal. Now I need to go find, an afternoon deal, or a mid-morning, late morning deal. And that becomes that becomes my sole point of focus. But, in kayak fishing, and I know, Dave, you got that 150 Mercury on the back of your boat, so you ain't got to worry about it. But, for us kayak guys, this was a mile and a half, close to 2 miles from the ramp here to this island. And then by the time you make it all the way down to the tip of this island, and then up here and everywhere else that I wanted to go, man, you're 3 or 4 miles in. And when you start thinking about, okay, it's time to move, you're looking at about 45 minutes, if not more, to get back to the ramp, another 15 minutes to load up, 10, 15 minutes to load up, 5 if you're super fast. And then, 15 to 45 minutes wherever you want to go. If I was going to leave here, I would have wanted to go either over here to Mud Creek, or I really wanted to go up the river and fish some of these more isolated, islands and stuff like that around there, or some of these backwater creeks. That's another area that I was kind of debating between on a day one. But I mean, you're looking at 45 minutes to an hour. If you're more than halfway through your day, man, by the time you got there, you may have an hour and a half of fishing, and then what's to say that you made all that attempt to get over to your next spot, and then you don't catch them, especially if you haven't had any practice there, and then especially some places like this, you could pull up, pedal on down here, which you'd have to put in. I can't remember where the ramp was, but by the time you got over here, this could be too shallow. It could be dry back in there. You never know. So at the beginning of this show, we talked a lot about, the idea of practice versus not getting any practice. And, I'm never one to say like, look, don't go out and fish a tournament just because you don't get any practice. But I truly believe that in kayak fishing, you really need some of that. You really need a couple of days of practice if you can. Now you can go out. I mean, last year, I think a guy showed up tournament day and won the dang thing. So it's not to say you can't do that. It's not to say you're not going to have success. But, me personally, I've gone back and I've kind of, looked at the percentage of times that I've had practice versus not had practice. And it seems like the times that I don't have practice, I'm not doing as good as when I do. So, that would have been definitely one thing I would have liked to have changed. Those were just the circumstances for myself that I just didn't have any practice. But, if I was going to do it differently, I probably would have hung out on this island all day long and just worked the stretch that was productive. Probably would have picked up some kind of, weightless D-bomb or, worm or whatnot, and just started working those reed lines and whatnot up along the island, and maybe picked up 2 more fish throughout the day. Of course, it's always easy to go back, David, and say, hey, I would have done this, but in the moment, I did what I thought I needed to do to catch fish. Was, this was too shallow for me, didn't like it. Started coming over here, started fishing shade and some offshore structure and whatnot. That was just the best that I had to work with in the area. But I want to hear your thoughts, David. We got about 8 minutes before we run up on this hour. What would be some things that you would do differently, if you could go back and repeat those 2 days?
I would not get so far in my head. I mean, this was one of those things I tell people all the time, just shut your brain down and go fish. And it's definitely not what I did. I mean, you talked to me on Friday. I was laboring in my head. Should I go here? Should I go there? I really had too many things going on in my brain to allow myself just to go fish. And when I was struggling on Saturday morning, that's where my brain went. I was like, I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done this. I should have done that. When I really should have just stuck my head down and went fishing. And sometimes that's what you have to do. I mean, the honest to God truth is it took 150 inches to get a check. That's a 15-inch average.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I know. And the thing is like, we went into this tournament thinking that. I mean, it was Friday. We're like, man, the past 2 tournaments, that have been out here have only won it with like 177 inches, something like that,
Yeah.
both times.
We knew what we needed to go do. I mean, just I didn't do some of the things that I really felt like I should have done. I should have went across with you Saturday morning. There were some areas over there I wanted to go look at, and I didn't go look at. I kind of took a Hail Mary kind of approach, and I knew if I could get over on that roadbed first and could sit on it, I felt like sometime that morning I would be able to catch a big bag, and it didn't happen. And that just threw me into a tizzy, and I just never did recover from it. So that's on me. I mean, we make a decision. We hope it's the best one we can make. But I mean, sometimes you just got to shut up and fish. And I did not do that.
Just shut up.
I mean, really.
Shut up, David. Damn it. Just fish.
Yeah. I mean, and I just didn't do it.
I taught yourself a little bit. I get you.
I let it get in my head, and I did what I did. So it is what it is. It was still fun. I enjoyed my weekend. Got to hang out with you guys. Well, except for Saturday night while somebody decided to sleep all freaking night. But It was fun.
So I've played sports my whole life. I was infantry in the military for 6 years, walking around with 60 pounds on my back in Iraq and whatnot. And I had a 4-wheeler accident, and I've been kayak fishing for the past 7 years. So my lower back is starting to talk up a little bit, and it's talking shit to me. I don't like it, so it's giving me problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Saturday, man, my back started hurting, and I'll be honest. I mean, I have used my motor guide on my Hobie a ton this year, and kind of gotten
out of
I
shape.
haven't really done a whole lot of pedaling this year, to be honest with you, except in the Hobie tournaments. So probably a little bit out of shape in that arena. But man, I got back to the house 3:30, stopped by the taco smell, grabbed a burrito, and hit the shower. Me and Dave, we were like, all right, we're gonna go to dinner around like 6:30 or something like that. And I was out.
He was having no part of it.
I lay in the bed, and my body was like, it's time to go to bed now. And I was just like, okay, it's good. Let's go. I slept for 15 hours, man. So
I come knocking on the door Sunday morning. He's like, I don't know if I'm getting up or not.
And I hate that too, man, because I'm a competitor, man. I want to go out. I want to go out, and I want to fish. I want to get out there early. I want to be the first one with the ramp. But this year a lot, I've been tired, man. But I haven't really been working out as much this year as I have been in the past and whatnot. And so that's on me. I need to improve. I need to improve on that. But yeah. So that kind of wraps up our our recap of Dardanelle. I'm like Jordan's in the comments. I agree. I'll be okay if I don't ever see that place again. Also, but you know what, Jordan? If you're still in here, man, you say that a lot about tournaments that you always do well in. You said that about Chickamauga. You won the state championship out there. So I think you just need to take your check, man, and be quiet and go sit down somewhere.
Oh Lord.
But anyways, well, man, I hope you guys have learned a little something from the day. We really try to teach you guys some stuff. As you can tell, we're not afraid to show you what we've been doing, where we're fishing, this and that. And hopefully you guys can take some of this information, process it, and utilize it next time that you're out. But I do want to mention this. I don't know if you guys saw this, but this really hit it home for me. And I'm not. When I was out there hurting, I was in pain. I was like, man, I can't quit. I got to keep going. But this guy, I'm sure you guys have all seen the news that came out, but Hunter Bowman, he won Major League Fishing Toyota Series event this past weekend on Truman Lake, I believe it was. I'm looking at it right now. Did you see this, David?
I saw it. I saw it just before the show started. And I did not get a chance to read any of it, so I did not do a good job of looking at it. But I'm right now
on Truman Lake. I'm not sure where that's at, but this gentleman is handicapped. He doesn't have any legs, and he had some kind of disease when he was born, and he's actually missing all of his fingers in one hand. The odds are stacked against him, and he goes out and he wins a tournament. And I looked into it, and I really want to maybe try to get him on the show and talk to him because it's just incredible. This guy, he has everything stacked against him, but he still goes out there and he fishes his heart out. And it paid off for him this past weekend. I don't know his his track record or anything, but to win against some, and there was apparently some big names in that tournament. That is an amazing feat, man. So if you haven't seen that story, it's Hunter Bowman, Baughman, Baughman. Fishing is his Facebook page. You can go and check it out, look at that story. But really incredible. I just encourage you all, if you find yourself in one of those moments, where you're thinking about giving up, just think about a guy like that, man. He's out there, he's pushing through it, and we can too if we all have all 4 of our limbs. But David, anything else you want to add, man, before we say goodnight?
No, I mean, just take it day by day. Learn every experience when you go out. Try to figure something out every time you go on the water. Just continue to do it. Come see us out here at the shop. We are in full blown getting ready for the fall season and Christmas. Lots of new products arriving pretty much all the time right now, so it's a good time to come out and see us. From fishing to kayaks to Christmas presents to you name it. So we're hitting our busy season. We got a bunch of shows in October, women's shows, gift shows. I'm going to be at Sevierville in November for a gift buying show for Christmas. So come out and see me. You pretty much know where I'm going to be for the next 90 to 120 days. So.
Yep. And that is S.Y. Wilson and Company and Primary Tackle in Arlington, Tennessee, right on the square. Can't miss it. Old building. Got a lot of great stuff inside it. So, guys, thank you all for tuning in tonight. It's been great. We've had a good number of people showing up for tonight's video. We really appreciate the support. Man, share this out there with your friends. Help us grow this podcast. Go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is Lines In Yak Fishing at YouTube. And share our videos around with your friends, your family. Let's get some more people in here so we can reach out, so we can reach some more people as well, and continue this going. Again, big thanks to our sponsors, Battleborn Batteries and Primary Tackle. And with that, we will say see you next week.
Thanks, y'all.